This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Well, good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time you're watching us. We are just happy you tuned in for another edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. 30 minutes of agribusiness news. It's what we do. Coming up, a common sense approach to protecting your farm and home from fire. John Holcomb reports on the important information that you need to know. Also on the program, Say Cheese, how this Thomasville couple fulfilled a dream of turning their family's dairy operation into a renowned award-winning cheese distributor.
And then later, this couple also had a dream and now they are living it. Take a trip with us to North Georgia and see what separates this interactive farm bed and breakfast from others. All this and so much more starts right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor. Every year, hundreds of 4-H and FFA students make the trip to Perry to compete in the Georgia Junior National Livestock Show. And thanks to the Georgia Farm Bureau and the Foundation for Agriculture, they will not only be competing for bragging rights and a trophy, but also a very nice cash prize. Damon Jones has the story.
While the Georgia National Fair is all fun and games for most in attendance, that's not the case for these 4-H and FFA members, as they are competing to become grand champion at the Junior National Livestock Show. It's a culmination of all the hard work they put in raising their animals over the past year, as well as representing their organizations.
It is a lot of hard work that they put into it, and it's important for them to do that in front of a crowd. You know, we want to promote ag awareness, all right? We want the ag to be at the forefront, and so we put these kids in front of an audience where they can do that. And they're in their shirts with their 4-H emblem and FFA emblem on them, and so it's just a really neat opportunity for them to show off their projects in front of a big crowd.
With that daily commitment to train and care for their animals, these competitors learned valuable lessons that will benefit them throughout their lives.
All our 3 kids showed up here. In fact, they came for the first show that was held here 28 years ago. And I think it teaches kids responsibility, respect, determination, and it teaches them to win and to lose and the responsibilities they have with that. So I think it is great.
And it's not just the kids that benefit through this program, but also the parents, as this program promotes family time with everyone getting involved.
This kind of event is all about family. You know, the kid, while they're the one that's in the show ring actually doing the show, and they don't get here by themselves. You know, they're every night. The cool part about this project and the cool part about, for me and my family, we're involved in this, is that every night I get time with my kid, and it's one-on-one time. And you build bonds through this project that are long-lasting.
We always, when we came up here, we knew we could turn them loose and that they were in a very, very safe environment, just a family atmosphere. And you know, and that's what our organization, Georgia Farm Bureau, it is a family organization. And I think that's very important.
That's the main reason the organization continues to be the premier sponsor for this event, as each state winner receives a cash prize thanks to the Farm Bureau, and the grand champions are provided a check through the Foundation for Agriculture, which promotes ag literacy and scholarship funds for the students. It's a partnership that helps encourage the future of the industry.
And I think it's very important to support the youth programs throughout Georgia. And this is just one way of showing our appreciation to our future leaders. Is what it is. I think it's very important that we be a part of it.
Even though it is primarily an event for the kids showing these animals, it can be also beneficial for those in attendance.
You're all the time looking for good, wholesome events for your family to enjoy. And it's an educational event. Your kids can learn about animal agriculture and what goes into raising these animals, and have an appreciation for where their food comes from and what exactly is going on in agriculture today.
Reporting from the Georgia National Fair in Perry, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Remove the fuel and the fire won't happen. That was the message at the Firewise on the Farm event, a field day created to educate people on fire safety methods to protect your farm. The Monitor's John Holcomb was there and has the story.
Here at the William Harris Homestead in Monroe, Georgia, people come out for an educational event called Firewise on the Farm.
Is common sense approach to things you need to do around the farm, which includes your dwelling and all. When we have a wildfire, when we have whatever happens, so that you don't lose buildings, farm equipment, those things that are so important to your income, is a common sense approach to doing things that cost no money, but helps you protect your investment.
The event was put on in part by the Walton County Soil and Water Conservation District, and as the name implies, was centered around the risk of fires on farms, and was the first time that risk has ever been addressed in the state.
We're really excited to put on this event. It's the first time that the threat of fire on the farm has really been addressed in Georgia, and it's just one of the many conservation topics that the Walton County Soil and Water Conservation District is dedicated to informing the public about.
The field day had more than a dozen stations, each talking about a different safety or conservation topic. One of those stations focused on keeping the land around buildings and barns clear, which will eliminate the fuel for the fire.
We want folks to pick up down limbs and just think about your clearances. You know, you don't want to have too many trees or bushes close by your barns or close by your home. Keep proper distance and clearance from your plants and vegetation. So if a fire was to occur, you won't spray it to your homestead.
However, farm safety alone was not the only thing that was discussed. The event also focused on residential areas and other types of safety.
We all are subject to fire at some point in time, whether it's a neighbor burning trash, lightning, or whatever. And so it's applicable, even though we're calling it Firewise on the farm, it's applicable to everybody.
Featured at the event were many exhibits and demonstrations. Some of those demonstrations included safety when dealing with power lines and lighting fires. The city of Monroe even had a demonstration of what happens when water is thrown into a grease fire, which many found out causes more harm than good.
It's very important that we stay educated on fire prevention. We want to prevent a fire before it can explode into something a lot more serious, where it can consume us and our home.
There was quite the turnout, consisting of everyone from community members to farmers. Some of the local schools even come out for the event. Monroe Country Day School decided to bring their ag class out to learn about some conservation and fire prevention methods and to let them get a more hands-on approach of learning.
This field day experience is a perfect experience for them to see that they see how important each person's job was to the life on the farm, and that everything work out and be successful in the end, that they have a crop, that they have food to eat in the winter, that they protect their land so that what they've worked for doesn't burn down.
Reporting in Monroe for the Georgia Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
John, thank you so much. And don't forget, if you missed any part of John's story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel, the Georgia Farm Monitor. Plenty of stuff to choose from. In fact, the archive goes all the way back to 2009.
And while you're there, keep clicking and like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page. Go ahead and send us some feedback as well. If you have a story idea, or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address you see there on your screen. That is news@farm-monitor.com. When we come back, handcrafted cheese made in a traditional old world style. That's how they do it at Sweetgrass Dairy, and the results have been award-winning. We'll share their story when the Georgia Farm Monitor continues.
Farmer Kalina Bruce knows firsthand how important tax reform is for America's farm and ranch families. Actually, her understanding of tax issues would enter the ledger as a compounding asset. Kalina and her husband Billy own a cow-calf farm in southwest Missouri. As a farmer, Kalina uses tax provisions, such as cash accounting, to help offset some of the many unknowns in agriculture, like how many winter storms her animals will have to weather, how long a drought will last, or how much money, if any, she'll make when the time comes to sell her calves.
Because farmers and ranchers are price takers, we need the ability to hold our commodities over from year to year. So we need the ability to store our corn in the bins or hold our calves over until we can ensure a good price in the market for those. And by using cash accounting, we can do this and not have to pay tax on those items until we receive the money for them.
As a certified public accountant, Kalina is keenly aware of how vital tax tools are for her farmer and rancher clients.
Some provisions that would be important to my agricultural clients would be the cash accounting, the accelerated cost recovery, as well as the business interest deduction, because those are going to be tools that I can use to help them average their income from a good year to a bad year, help them reinvest in their businesses and get some growth.
As harvest season nears across the country, so does the prospect for federal tax reform in Washington. Kalina wants to make sure farmers are not left holding an empty bag, a story she has shared on Capitol Hill. There are several key tax provisions for agriculture on the table, but they'll only be truly effective if Congress makes them permanent.
We need this because we are often putting in a crop that we won't harvest for a whole year and we won't sell for another year. So we are looking at 2 years out in terms of recovering expenses and that sort of thing. And that's why a permanent tax code is important for us, so that we can plan, we can budget, and we can be sure that we are being as tax efficient as possible.
Kalina focuses on congressional efforts to rewrite tax laws that affect American agriculture. She hopes that her investment will pay dividends, not only on farmers' balance sheets, but for rural communities and the national economy.
Lowering tax rates and giving farmers and ranchers more money in their pockets so that they can reinvest in their businesses and reinvest in their communities is going to be good for all of America.
Erin Anthony, American Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back to the show. In 2005, Jessica Little and her husband Jeremy took a leap of faith. They bought Sweetgrass Dairy from Jessica's parents and adopted the company's New Zealand-style rotational grazing system. A system that appears to have worked, because in the years since, Sweetgrass Dairy expanded its distribution to over 40 states and developed a line of core cheeses that have won countless honors, including 4 International World Cheese Awards. Located in Thomasville, Georgia, Sweetgrass Dairy continues to grow and remains dedicated to high-quality production, lasting partnerships, and a genuine relationship with all of its customers.
It wasn't just about cheese. We want people to, ask more questions about how their vegetables are grown, or how their meat, is raised, or how their fish are caught. And we're just playing a very small role in this big movement of knowing where your food comes from. I love that idea of providing opportunities and seeing employee development, and we have a really kooky, kind of quirky culture in our business, and it's fun to foster that. And then, but by far the cheese shop is my baby, and it was, the most expensive hobby I'll ever have. I love it so much. I love really great craft cocktails. I love wine, really great beers, and just being able to, the true act of hospitality is so wonderful, of being able to make somebody's day, like turn their day around. And so the cheese shop is definitely more my baby, and Jeremy's in the cheese plant. So he's in charge of cheese production and cheese manufacturing, and he is so passionate about the science and craft of cheese making. We're most valuable locally, and this is where we want to put our effort, energy, time. We love, Atlanta's our biggest major market, so we spend a lot of time in Atlanta. But, in the Southeast is so great, and there's so many great cheesemakers that are popping up in the South, which we don't have a long history of. So that's exciting to see. But no, I think that we live in the one, or I'm sure there's others, but there's very, very few areas of the country where you can graze cattle 365 days a year. We can grow incredible amounts of grass because you need a minimum temperature of 50 degrees to grow grass. We have an average temperature of 67. We are on top of the Floridan aquifer, and we have the ability to, have cows spend their whole lives on grass, which is so unique. And I think that there's value in that, whether you're you have a cheese shop in Wisconsin or Oregon or Maine or California, that I think it's a universal story that people want to support farmers that are allowing cows to be cows. This is a big point of contention between Jeremy and I.
He's happy you're not.
Yes, because
he's satisfied.
He's satisfied, yeah. Well, for him, it's the pursuit of perfection, of what he's doing in making cheeses. And he just got back from 2.5 weeks in France and cheese school, you know, and it's so great to me to see him. You know, we've won, gosh, over 30 national and international awards for cheese, and yet he's still out there doing these courses and trying to learn the chemistry and the microbiology of cheese making so that he can be better. And we do want to grow it. I want to offer more opportunities to our staff and our team, and I would love to see us be a national company. I want to be in all 50 states, and I think that right now we really focus a lot more in food service because this is our background and we know how to talk to chefs, and chefs are so fun to work with. But I think the next frontier for us is getting into more retail and getting in cheese counters, which has not been an easy thing to do.
Yeah, just a really cool place to visit. The food, amazing as well. Stay with us. Our couples theme continues here in a bit. When we come back, you're going to meet a couple who left behind life in the big city and are now proud owners of a one-of-a-kind Georgia bed and breakfast. That is next when the Georgia Farm Monitor continues.
For farmers to grow crops, they need good, or at least decent weather, including nourishing rain. But sometimes producers must deal with drought. Charles Denny shows us research from UT's Institute of Agriculture using rainout shelters to see how plants perform under the worst of conditions.
I think this one was almost 69%, 70% of water saving.
Crop physiologist Avat Shakufa keeps tabs on a soybean crop that's purposefully been mistreated. These plants are under the canopy of a rainout shelter, just like the name says, built to keep the rain out. These soybeans haven't seen a drop of moisture since July. 9 varieties are being tested under 2 rainout shelters at UT's Ag Research Center in Jackson. Some are doing well, others are gone.
The difference between them in how green and how turgid they are, some of them how wilted they are. Like very quickly, like by middle of, I can say, July.
But that was the idea, to watch them wilt. Shakufa studies which soybean varieties perform best under the stress of drought. That's valuable information for farmers who see rainfall amounts vary greatly from year to year.
If you have too much drought, so why not going for a variety that still can survive, still can give you benefit of growth and yield compared to the one that after a while is gone? Like, it cannot handle that drought.
A plant makes a comeback every night. When temperatures drop and humidity rises, there's a bit of a recovery. But it's only temporary. When the warm sun comes back out, plants can start wilting again.
So we are going to look at the average of everything that by the end of season.
UT Ag researchers here are measuring the rate of recovery and wilting and will soon collect yield data after the fall harvest. But as expected, they already know some varieties are surviving better than others.
You want some losers and winners, you know, and so that tells you that you've got a test going. You know, if you've got some that's not holding up and some that are, then we can try to look at the good techniques and bring those together.
Farmers hope for timely rain, but that's never a guarantee, especially in Tennessee, where 95% of soybeans are rain-fed. To get a good idea of what a plant can do, sometimes you have to envision a worst-case scenario, because that's exactly what can happen in tough years. This is Charles Denny reporting.
Finally today, just outside of Blue Ridge, Georgia, sits a 35-acre fully interactive farm bed and breakfast that consistently scores high marks on TripAdvisor and other travel sites. Why such high marks, you ask?
Well, it could be the location or maybe the features of the property, but after spending a day with them, our guess is more than likely it's the incredible couple who run the farm.
Peace and tranquility. That's the norm these days for Lester and Diana Roddy. A far cry from their previous life in the suburbs of Chicago in western Florida. A 36-year veteran of law enforcement, the last 10 as a police chief, Lester says moving to the country was always the plan. And it just so happens that Georgia was the perfect destination.
you know, we've traveled extensively, and when we finally decided to retire, we didn't want to stay in Florida because it was too congested and always hot. So we wanted to move back up north again, so we moved halfway back, found God's country here in the mountains, and what better place than Blue Ridge, Georgia.
The move, however, didn't happen overnight. According to Lester, the whole process took about 3 years and included countless hours of searching the internet and making phone calls before finally deciding on the property now known as Horse Creek Stable.
It was a foreclosure. Everything was chest high with weeds. The barn behind me wasn't there. The fencing for the horses wasn't there. And slowly we just started piecing it all together. And we have this one little carriage house room that we gutted and completely updated. And we said this would be a perfect spot for our friends and family to come visit us. Well, then one thing led to another, and we said, well, why don't we rent it out as a bed and breakfast room when our friends and family aren't here? And it has just taken off in popularity. Traditionally, people think of a Victorian home with very ornate furnishings, and we market ourselves as a farm stay or agritourism bed and breakfast. You travel in Italy or many European countries, and they have agritourism hotel signs everywhere. People will stay at a vineyard, people will stay on a farm, and that was the experience that we wanted to give people here. So we get a lot of people that love animals, love the outdoors, and are just thrilled to have a farm stay experience.
During their stay, guests are also welcomed by the many animals that call Horse Creek home. Animals who are extremely special and who each have their own story.
We partnered up with the Georgia Equine Rescue League, and many of the horses have come to us through them. We also partnered up with Adopt a Golden Atlanta. We've gotten some golden retrievers from them. 2 of them were hit by cars, lost their legs, and they are now permanent fixtures. We've adopted them on the farm. And our latest little girl, she's 5 months old. She was born with a condition called cerebellar hypoplasia, and she can't walk very well at all. But they took her, the breeder took her to a vet to put her down. The vet said not without trying, turned her over to Adopt a Golden Atlanta, and they have placed her with us as a forever foster. She belongs to them, but she will hopefully live out all of her years here on the farm with us. And then we have the state of Georgia's only therapy miniature donkey that we've taken to assisted living facilities. People with kids that have special needs will come here. 2 weeks ago, we had one of the schools show up with a big school bus, and the kids got off and had a farm tour. And we don't charge anything for a tour, especially for kids that might have conditions similar to our animals. We really enjoy offering that to them.
And then there is Tricycle, another one of Diana Lester's fur babies, who was the inspiration behind this children's book, Tricycle and Friends. Its author, Lester Arati.
We ended up adopting Tricycle, and on our Facebook page we kept posting pictures of Tricycle interacting with the other animals. And all the volunteers and parents of Adopt a Golden Retrievers kept saying, you have to write a children's book, you have to put this in a book. So we eventually did. We're going to do this until we can physically no longer do it. And it is difficult work. Hopefully if the business does a little bit better, we can get some help. But right now it's Diane and I, and thankfully our adult daughter Jennifer is here for a short period of time and has been a workaholic on the farm. So it's been pure joy.
Great people, great place to visit, and all the animals, such a fun, loving environment. And if you'd like more information on Horse Creek Stable and to check their availability, you can find them on Facebook or at the address there, horsecreekstable-and-lodging.com. Also the book Tricycle and Friends. It is available at Amazon.com as well as BarnesandNoble.com. Yes, nice little weekend getaway, that is for sure.
Yes, indeed.
Time to say goodbye, Kenny.
Yep, but a quick reminder, for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm, check out our social media platforms. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming and with us here on the show.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week, everybody.